In today's podcast, you'll learn useful vocabulary to describe bad food. We'll explore words and phrases that describe when food goes from fabulous to foul. Whether it's a stale slice of bread or a rancid piece of cheese, you'll learn how to talk about these less than appetizing experiences in English. Welcome to
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hi, I'm Reza.
And my name's Craig.
And with more than 50 years of teaching between us, we'll help you improve your English and take it to the next level. How are things, Craig?
Things are very good, my friend. We've just had a lovely cup of coffee and our guest biscuit this week was homemade, which is always a pleasure to have a homemade biscuit with your coffee. How are you doing?
I'm doing much better after that biscuit, and that biscuit was not an example of bad food, quite the opposite. It was an example of extremely tasty food.
If it's your first time listening to us, you're very, very welcome. And if you've come back to listen again, thank you for your time. Now, first this week, we have a voice message from Walter from Liège in Belgium.
Hi, Craig and Reza. I'm Walter from Liège in Belgium. First of all, I would like to thank you about your podcast. Every week, I'm looking forward to listening to you. Your podcast is simply amazing. Today, I would like to ask you an advice about how to unlock your level because I'm going to take a B2 certification exam between 6 weeks. And now I have the impression that my level is no longer advancing. And I would like to unlock this situation because I'm a little bit upset about that. By the way, for the next episode, perhaps you could talk about something in the field of job, like job application, internship, how to find a job. Obviously, I haven't listening all the podcasts that you have published since 2011, but that subject could be interesting if you haven't published some podcasts about it. So that's it. Have a good week.
Thank you very much for your message, Walter. It was very clear. We understood everything you said, and you're studying for the B2 exam. It's quite common to feel a little bit of frustration that you're not advancing because you're at the intermediate or upper intermediate level. So at that stage, it's difficult to see progress, and my advice will be just keep on studying, keep on pushing. You might not notice that you're improving, but the improvement will come in small increments. Reza, it's a shame we don't really know anyone who could help Walter and people like Walter who want to improve their English conversation or speaking.
We don't know anyone, you say?
Oh, hang on a second. Yes, we do know someone. I can help anybody who wants to improve their English conversation and take their fluency up to the next level because I have a conversation course. So if you want help with your speaking and you want to join me and a small group of lovely people online using Zoom, send me an email and I'll give you more information. Write to me at Craig, C-R-A-I-G, at inglespodcast.com and come and join our lovely conversation course.
And Walter, if you'd like an even smaller group than that, just you and me, okay, you could get in touch with me. In other words, I could offer you a one-to-one service, just you and me, to figure out what we need to concentrate on. If it's for you to pass an exam, we could concentrate on exam technique. Or if you want to do specifically grammar, it could be that, listening, it could be a mixture. The great thing about a one-to-one class is we can design it to exactly your needs. So Walter, or anybody out there, if you're interested in that, why not send me an email to belfastreza@gmail.com.
Now, Walter, as good as your message was, and it was very good, there are one or two things we can improve. So you said every week I'm looking forward to listen. I think you said listen to you. It's listening to you. And because it's every week, it's a habit. It's something you regularly do. It's better to use the present simple. So a better sentence would be every week, I look forward to listening to you.
Walter, you said very kindly, thank you about your podcast. Well, we understand you, but you've got the wrong preposition there. You should say thank you for something, not about. So thank you for your podcast.
And because I live in Spain and I speak Spanish, I know that advice is a countable noun. I'm not sure about French. Do you know, Reza, if advice is countable?
I can't remember. Walter, I'm probably about to make a terrible mistake. Is it conseil? Is that it? I'm not sure.
I can't remember. My French goes back to when I was 15 years old, so I honestly can't remember. But in English, it's uncountable. So you don't say an advice, you say some advice or a piece of advice. So I'd like to ask you for some advice, or I'd like to ask you for a piece of advice.
And one last thing, Walter, I think you said, obviously I haven't listening, but we can't put the ing after haven't. That isn't grammatically correct. So we'll have to use I haven't listened with the past participle. Obviously, I haven't listened to all the episodes would be the correct version of that.
And yes, we have spoken in several episodes about finding work and job interviews. If you go to episode 424, that's 10 expressions to excel in your next job interview. That wasn't a podcast with Reza. That was with a friend of mine, Kevin. So go to inglespodcast.com/424 for that episode. Have we done any others, Reza?
We have. We've done a few more. Also, there's an episode which we called Job Interview Questions. And Walter, you can find that if you go to inglespodcast.com/58. So that was episode 58. And even earlier than that, episode 43 was called How to Have a Job Interview in English and Work Vocabulary. So go to inglespodcast.com/43. Were there any more, Craig?
There was one about how to write an effective CV or resume before you even get to your job interview, which is very important. That was with Claire. So go to inglespodcast.com/463, how to write an effective CV or resume with Claire. And thank you so much for your message, Walter. Best of luck with your preparation for the B2 first exam.
We have another voice message now, but we're moving from Belgium to Colombia and Andres.
Hi Reza, hi Craig. This is Andres from Colombia. It's been a while since my last voice message, and honestly, I haven't had the chance of listening to the last episodes because I've been swamped with work, but I'm catching up with the last episodes, and I'd like to suggest a topic for a future episode, because recently I was talking with a friend and we were talking about when food goes bad, and I realized that I only know 2 words to talk about it, and those words are moldy and rotten. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure there are other words to talk about that. So I'd like to suggest that topic for a future episode. I'm pretty sure that all your listeners out there, they want to learn more words to talk about food, and in this particular case, when food goes bad. So guys, that's all. I hope you are doing well, and cheers.
Thanks, Andres. That was a very clear message and a very, very interesting idea. I really like it. Specifically talking about food going bad. So yeah, we love talking about great food and food we enjoy, but it's very important to describe bad food as well, isn't it, Craig?
Absolutely, yeah. And I just want to focus on a lovely expression Andres used in his message. I've been swamped with work. First of all, the expression to be swamped with work, to have so much work that you have no time to do anything else. Swamped with work. And also a really good use of the present perfect. Lately, I've been swamped with work. And similar expressions, you can say you've been snowed under, overloaded with work, knee deep. So your knees in the middle of your legs, your work has gone up to your knees. You are knee deep in work. You have a lot on your plate at the moment, or you're inundated with work. All of those expressions are in the show notes, inglespodcast.com/520 to see those expressions and all of the vocabulary that we're going to mention, because there are quite a few words, aren't there, Reza?
There are. But just before we get to that, Andres, I'd like to comment on a couple of things which we could improve. Although your message was really good, I think you said that you were talking about the last episodes, but a better word would be the latest episodes, not the last. The last episodes would suppose that we're not podcasting anymore, but we are. We haven't finished, we're continuing. So they're not the last episodes, they're the latest. Yeah, they're the ones that we've done most recently, but they're not the final episodes. There will be more. Yeah, hopefully. So they're the latest episodes. And also your pronunciation was really, really good, but there was one word I think that you could improve, and it's a very useful word. Thanks for giving it to us to talk about it in this episode. The word rotten. I think you didn't quite get that right. So it should be rotten. ROTTEN. But a great word. Thanks for giving us that idea.
So let's start with our vocabulary about describing bad food with your two suggestions, Andres. So rotten, as Reza said, is when something decays over time. It gets worse over time. Fruit can go rotten if you leave fruit in the sun for weeks. And the other word was moldy, MOLDY. And that's when fungus develops on food because it's very old. So if you can imagine leaving bread outside in the air, especially in the heat, for days and days and days, you start to see a green mold growing on the bread. So the adjective is moldy, the bread goes moldy.
The word rotten is an interesting word. It's actually a very impressive word, Andres. I wonder if you happen to know that there is also a verb to rot. So when the food goes bad, it rots, R-O-T. But an unusual thing happens here because the verb rot is to rot, then rotted. It's regular, yeah, ED. Usually, when you have an adjective coming from a verb, you just use the past participle. But in this case, we don't. It's not rotted. The adjective is rotten. So you would say, the apple has rotted. That's the verb. But if we use it as an adjective, it is a rotten apple. So strangely, we don't use the past participle. We use a different word, although it comes from the verb to rot. That doesn't happen very often.
You're right. People say I'm a rotten cook. That doesn't mean I'm mouldy, although it might do. It means I cook very badly. I'm a very bad cook. I'm a rotten footballer. I'm a rotten singer. I'm really, really bad at it.
But you're a bloody good podcaster.
Thank you. Do you know what my nickname was at school, what the other kids used to call me?
No idea.
one of my nicknames, I had 2 or 3. One of my nicknames at school was Stinky Wieland. So what does stinky mean?
Well, stinky's a very useful word to talk about food. It's not only to talk about Craig. Stinky, S-T-I-N-K-Y, means that something smells bad, really bad. A variation is with ing, stinking. So you could say stinky, or a little bit more formal, stinking. Or also you could say simply smelly, it smells a lot. Or even the word whiffy, not Wi-Fi, I'm not talking, when Spanish talk about, oye, tenéis Wi-Fi para el internet, that word in English that we pronounce Wi-Fi. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when something smells bad, you can say whiffy, W-H-I-F-F-Y.
And if something's smelly, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. For example, you can have smelly cheese, which might be really tasty, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily bad to eat. A word that's not as common as stinky and smelly is minging, M-I-N-G-I-N-G. And you may hear that in Scottish English, Irish English, in Scotland and Ireland, speaking about something that also smells bad, minging. It's minging. It's got a really bad smell.
Would you ever use that word yourself?
No, because I'm from London, so it's not a particularly colloquial Southern English term, but I have heard it before.
But believe me, it's probably the number one adjective of choice in Scotland, as far as I know. The number one adjective to describe food which either smells or tastes bad would be that word. That's the most popular word in Scotland. It's also quite popular in Ireland as well. But you've got to get the pronunciation. You've got to pronounce it. You've got to do it the Scottish way. So that's minging.
Minging.
Or the Irish way. That's minging.
So is it always negative? It's always for something bad?
Always something bad. It's minging.
Can you use it to describe a person? She's minging.
It would mean that she's really smelly or she's really disgusting, perhaps.
Okay.
She does really dirty things. Yeah, maybe a bit like, who was it? Stinky Wieland?
Stinky Wieland, yeah. Stinky Wieland. Hey, Stinky. Now, as a music lover, I remember really good music from the 80s. Groups like Funkadelic, One Nation Under a Groove, really good black music that was funky music. But funky can also be used colloquially for food, can't it?
Yeah, and then it's a completely different story. It's not cool. It's not good. If food is funky, it's not quite right. There's something strange about it.
It's smelly.
It's not right. In other words, it is off. So the phrasal verb to be off means that food is not right. It's too old or there's something about it which isn't right. It's funky.
So if food is off, and that is a very common expression, then it's bad. Don't eat it. And the expression to go off is the process of becoming bad or becoming off. So it starts to smell really bad. You can say it's foul smelling, F-O-U-L. It's a foul smelling food. It's gone off. It smells off. For example, don't use that milk. Don't put that milk in your tea. It's gone off. Or this mayonnaise smells off. So if it goes off, if it smells off, or if it is off, it means it's bad food.
Craig, you once had a very strange experience in your house with mayonnaise, didn't you?
Do you want to go there?
No. It's a long story. For some other time, I'm going to get Craig to tell you the story of Mr. Mayonnaise.
Let's put the mayonnaise story in the fridge because we don't want it to go off.
Another very common expression to talk about food is that it is past. To be past, now there's a couple of things you could say. Past its sell-by date. Yeah. In other words, it's out of date. You know how food has a label on it and it says that you must eat it by whatever the date is. So if you eat it after that, there's a good chance it's going to be off because it's past its sell-by date or it's out of date. Or you could say it's past its expiry date, a little bit more formal.
Another verb you can use is to spoil, S-P-O-I-L. For example, if you're painting a picture and you spill your coffee or your tea on the picture, you spoil the picture. It's ruined. You can't use it. It's bad now. So if food is spoiled, that means perhaps it's gone off, or maybe there's far too much salt in the food, or something's happened to make it not good. So anything that's spoiled is ruined. Don't eat it. It's not good.
And Craig, would you agree that too many cooks spoil the broth?
That's a nice idiom. What does that mean?
So too many cooks spoil, they ruin something. It's not right. They spoil the broth, B-R-O-T-H. Broth is like a type of soup, but it could be anything really. It's just an example. So too many cooks, too many people doing the same thing, like making broth, for example. One cook making broth is a good idea, but 4 all trying to mix the same pot is not going to work, is it? It's too complicated. They're going to interfere with each other. There's going to be an accident. They're going to disagree. So if too many people try to do the same thing, that's not a good idea. Too many cooks spoil the broth.
So hopefully your fish won't be off when you make a broth. Because if you do that, it won't be fit for human consumption. That expression, to be fit for human consumption, means it's okay to eat it.
Now, Craig and I are both big fans of cake. Also, we like good bread as well. But one of the problems you can have with cake or bread or similar things made out of flour, F-L-O-U-R, is that they can become stale, S-T-A-L-E. The adjective stale means that it's not quite right, it's old, it's too hard, it's past the time when you should eat it. So nobody likes stale bread or stale cake.
Fresh bread, on the other hand, is lovely. The opposite of stale is fresh. And rancid is similar, but we use the word rancid for butter, oil, nuts that have gone off. They have a bad taste. Rancid, R-A-N-C-I-D. Rancid butter is not good to eat because maybe it's been in the heat for too long and it's gone off. It's not good to eat. It's spoiled.
Another word which is really quite an extreme word is the word putrid. P-U-T-R-I-D. And that describes something that is decaying or rotting, but very badly. Let's compare it, for example, to moldy. Perhaps you have a piece of cheese in your fridge which has been there for too long, and now it's a little bit moldy. Maybe you're getting strange colors on it, little green or blue dots on it. But it's not, it's not gonna make your fridge explode or anything like that. It's just moldy. However, something that's putrid, that's really bad, like if you left that cheese for 4 years and it became like a black liquid or something really disgusting, then you might use the word putrid. So it's quite an extreme word.
Remember, you can see a list of all these words on our website. Go to inglespodcast.com/520 for a list of these words. The next one is connected to meat, steak, for example. Be careful of the difference between the pronunciation of steak, which is meat that you eat from a cow, and stick, which is a piece of wood. So stick and steak. Steak, if it's very difficult to eat because it's hard, we don't use the word hard, we use the word tough. Pronunciation, tough. T-O-U-G-H. Yes, I know. I'm sorry about the spelling. Tough. So if the meat is very chewy, which means it's difficult to chew with your teeth, maybe it's very dry, it's like eating rubber, it's rubbery, then the meat is tough. The opposite of tough is tender.
A word which is not used as often, so it would be an impressive word if you could use it, is the word unpalatable. Now, your palate is a part of your mouth. It's the roof of your mouth. It's the bit at the top. And if something is unpalatable, well, you don't want it to touch your palate. You don't want it to be in your mouth. In other words, you don't like it. It's unpalatable. It can't be eaten.
Something that you can eat, the adjective is not eatable, it's edible. E-D-I-B-L-E. So if something is edible, it's okay to eat. It's fine. The opposite, we use the prefix in. So if something is not fit to eat or not good to eat, you can say it's inedible. For example, many times people have said to me, Craig, your cooking is inedible. We can't eat it. Notice those different prefixes there. We've got the word palatable, unpalatable, and edible, inedible. There's a similar word to inedible, Reza, which is more used in American English, isn't there?
Yes, gross. Gross. That's a very, very common word, particularly in colloquial or informal American English. If something is gross, it's horrible, disgusting. It can not only be for food, it can be for other things, but it's particularly common for food. Another very useful word is the word sour. S-O-U-R. Sour. It's typically used to describe, above all, dairy products, things made out of milk. So sour milk, sour yogurt, perhaps even sour cream. When a product with milk in it is off, yeah, you've had it too long and it's time to throw it away, it's sour.
The phrasal verb to put someone off can mean to distract them if they're trying to concentrate on something. Stop putting me off. I'm trying to put this golf ball in the hole, or I'm trying to understand this text. Don't put me off. Don't distract me. But it can also mean to repulse someone. So it's something that's disgusting, something you look at, something you taste. If it puts you off, you're repulsed by it. You don't like it at all. And from that, we get the adjective off-putting, the compound adjective. So an off-putting meal is something that you really don't want to eat. It's not appetizing. And the prefix we need to make appetizing negative is unappetizing. Unappetizing food doesn't look nice, doesn't smell nice, you don't want to eat it. It's off-putting.
To become even more extreme than that, we could use stronger words such as disgusting, nauseating, repulsive, or maybe even dreadful, D-R-E-A-D-F-U-L. So those words are stronger than unappetizing. They're really, really, really unappetizing. They're repulsive, dreadful, nauseating, or disgusting.
If you work too much, you are overworked. If you're paid too much, you're very lucky and you're also overpaid. And if you cook something too much, it's overcooked. Or you can say burnt, B-U-R-N-T. Now that describes my cooking. Actually, last week my wife had to go somewhere, so she wasn't around for lunch, and she prepared a lovely pasta dish with ham and some chorizo and some tomato sauce and some cheese on top, and she left it for me to heat up in the oven. I put it in the oven, Reza, and I burnt it. The only thing I had to do was heat it up, and I burnt the cheese. Typical. Overcooked.
The opposite of overcooking is, you could probably guess, undercooking. So the prefix over, too much, usually is contrasted with the prefix under, not enough. So if something is undercooked, that means it hasn't been cooked enough. For example, I really don't like certain meat undercooked. Undercooked pork is something that bothers me. I wouldn't eat it.
It's dangerous as well.
Dangerous, isn't it? Also, undercooked chicken. Undercooked chicken and pork, I avoid. I don't mind if beef is not cooked so much, but I really make sure I avoid undercooked pork and chicken. And there's no way I would eat pork raw. I have eaten raw meat. In fact, there's a very famous dish, which is steak tartare. I've eaten it. It's not something I eat a lot, but it's raw. R-A-W. That means it's not cooked at all. Zero
sushi,
cooking.
like sushi as well?
Sushi is also raw, but I definitely wouldn't eat raw pork or chicken, would you?
No. Have you ever eaten raw eggs, like in Rocky 1, where he drinks the raw eggs? That's supposed to be very good for you.
I haven't, although I have eaten very undercooked eggs. Sometimes I put an egg in something I'm cooking right at the last minute. So literally it's only on the heat for like 30 seconds and then I'd eat it. I would do that, yeah, but I'm not that keen on the idea of raw eggs. What about you?
No, me neither. I've never tried it, but it's supposed to be very healthy. If food has a lot of water, you can say it's watery. Just put a Y at the end, watery. And for example, if you put water on bread, you can say the bread is soggy, S-O-G-G-Y, soggy bread. With Reza's example, with the eggs, if you don't cook eggs for a long time, they're runny, R-U-N-N-Y. So there's lots of liquid in the eggs because they haven't been cooked properly, so they're runny. And another word you can use for something that has a lot of liquid is mushy. Mushy, M-U-S-H-Y. Sometimes in the UK, especially in the north of Britain, you can find mushy peas, which are green peas that are mushed and mixed together and they're watery. What's your opinion of mushy peas? Have you had them?
I like mushy peas. I do. If they're cooked properly. I don't like mushy peas from a tin. Processed mushy peas are horrible, but traditional mushy peas from a fish and chip shop can be very nice. So basically it's peas with a lot of liquid added, but it actually tastes really good. Craig, I know quite a lot of people in Spain particularly who like their omelets, or tortilla as you say in Spain, runny. What about you? Do you like your omelet runny or do you like it quite well cooked?
I like it quite well cooked. I'd say firm. F-I-R-M. I like firm eggs, scrambled eggs. I don't like runny eggs. Now, if something is overcooked, like meat, for example, you can say it tastes like cardboard. Like in a cardboard box. You eat something, there's no flavor, there's no taste, and it's difficult to chew. You can say, I don't like this meat. It tastes like cardboard, or it's like cardboard.
Other words to describe food that doesn't have much taste could be tasteless. So add the suffix les, that means without taste. Or you could also say under-seasoned, because to season food means to add seasoning. That means things like salt and pepper and perhaps spices. So if something is under-seasoned, it doesn't have enough salt, pepper, spices. Of course, the opposite would be over-seasoned, which it has too much salt and pepper and spices. And another word which is very confusing for Spanish speakers is the word bland, B-L-A-N-D. It means the same as tasteless, not much taste, because Spanish people think, bland, it must be the same as blando, but it isn't. Blando is soft, no? Bland is soso, yeah, not much taste.
I'm going to risk offending some Spanish people here, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I tend to think that some Spanish dishes can be a bit bland. They can need a bit more seasoning. In my opinion, some dishes are under-seasoned. Do you agree with that?
It depends. Well, give me an example or two.
Some rice dishes I find are a little bit bland.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion, and take that with a pinch of salt.
Oh, very good. What do you mean by take that with a pinch of salt?
I mean, take it in proportion to other things, and also consider the fact that I'm a British English person, and everybody knows that British food is not the best in the world. So take it with a pinch of salt.
In fact, British food is often criticized as being bland, to be honest.
That's true. Yeah. I definitely prefer Spanish food to English food. Definitely. But I do think some Spanish dishes could use a little more seasoning.
And what about the other extreme? Certainly nobody would accuse Indian cooking as being bland, but some people say it's over-seasoned. What do you think about that?
By over-seasoned, if you mean too spicy, too hot, then for my palate, for my taste, the hot curries are over-seasoned because Madras, Vindaloo curries, for my taste, are too hot and spicy. But I love Indian food, as long as they're not too hot and spicy. What about you?
Yes, I can take it fairly spicy within reason. Yeah, but I don't like it if something just tastes only of chili pepper and nothing else. There should be a nice blend of spices, a nice mixture.
I agree. Absolutely.
I can think of one more word which is not very commonly used these days, but I'm going to say it anyway. The word high. H-I-G-H.
Is that with marijuana in the food?
It could be if you put marijuana in there. If you've eaten some hash cakes, or hash biscuits. Hash is marijuana, and you feel a bit sleepy after that. You could say you're high. But a more traditional, more formal use of the word high means off, not right, but specifically for game. But I'm not talking about like chess or dominoes. I'm talking about another type of game. Game is meat from animals that you have hunted. So, for example, pheasants or partridges or wild boar, animals that you've hunted, and then you have to hang up and keep for a day or two before you prepare them. If you keep them too long or something happens and they go off, you can say that they're a bit high.
Can you say they're gamey?
Gamey is the same as high, I think, yeah. When it tastes too much of the game, it's gamey or it's high.
Reza, what British food would a non-British person find strange or off-putting?
I know a lot of people who are not at all impressed with something which I like a lot, which is porridge. Porridge. Gachas de avena, as you say in Spanish. So you take oats and you boil them up in water or milk or a mixture. And maybe you add a pinch of salt, maybe a bit of honey, and that's it. Many foreigners find it very bland and uninteresting, but I like it. What about you?
Well, I thought of the obvious ones, beans on toast. I think it might be strange for non-British people. Marmite on toast.
Right.
Maybe a fried breakfast, maybe unusual for people more used to a lighter continental breakfast. But what about jellied eels?
Oh, wow.
I hate jellied eels. They are eels, EELS, those long kind of fish-like snakes that live in water, and you chop them up, you cut them up, and then they're served in a spiced stock, kind of a gravy-like liquid with spices that then becomes kind of like a jelly. And I've tasted them. They're disgusting, in my opinion.
And are they served hot or cold?
Cold. Very popular in the East End of London. Jellied eels.
I've never had them. I've had eels in Valencia in Algibebre, and I like that, but that's a warm dish.
Yeah.
You mentioned a dish that I just want to get back to. I agree with 99% of foreigners that it's hugely overrated by the British. I don't get the joy of baked beans on toast. I've never understood it. I agree with the Spanish people. A tinned product of beans, put a load of sugar and tomato sauce on it. I'm sticking with a fabada asturiana personally. I never really liked beans, but as soon as I got to Spain, I thought, oh no, beans can be quite good because all I knew was baked beans. They don't do it for me. I agree with Spanish people.
Well, that's interesting because I don't agree. I don't go along with that. I grew up eating baked beans on toast because my mum was a terrible cook. So to be easy, she just opened a tin of beans, made some toast, put lots of butter, and the the juice of the beans, the tomato sauce melts and mixes with the butter and goes inside the bread. And it's comfort food for me because I grew up eating it.
I find them too sweet. Mm-hmm. I don't want my savory food which is not sweet, to have that much sugar in it. You know they put sugar in baked beans.
Oh, yeah, I know.
It's like, you know what a fabada asturiana is?
I love that, yeah.
I'd far rather have that any day.
Totally different dish, completely different. Reza, have you ever had bad food while traveling?
Yes, of course, because I've been in places like Pakistan and Turkey. And you can quite often there get food which is off. I remember seeing people buy fish from a market in Turkey, and it was boiling hot, and there was no refrigeration whatsoever for fish. I thought that's asking for trouble. That fish is bound to be off. And in Pakistan, I've seen a meat market where the meat was just hanging up outside, no fridge.
All the flies around it.
It's not going to be good. It's not going to end well, that, is it? There's going to be a very sad ending to that if you eat that meat.
It's very off-putting, very unappetizing.
What about you? Have you got any horror story?
Well, my wife got food poisoning once in China. She had some chicken in a sandwich that was off. And I don't know if it was maybe past its sell-by date or it just gone off. It was spoiled and she got really bad food poisoning and she was in hospital for a week, which is not fun in China, in a small village in the middle of nowhere. So that was probably the worst experience. It didn't happen to me, but obviously it happened to somebody I'm close to, and it was not very nice. But now it's your turn to practice your English. Do you have any bad food stories that you'd like to share with us? That could be a lovely way to practice some of this vocabulary. And also, what's a food from your culture that some people might find strange? Send us a voice message. Go to speakpipe.com/inglespodcast.
If you would prefer to write because you don't feel brave enough to send a voice message yet, although we prefer voice messages, but if you want to write, you could email Craig, write to craig@inglespodcast.com, or me, write to belfastreza@gmail.com.
And if you're a Spanish speaker, and we know many of you are, and you would like to study for free, there are lots of free courses and other material on the Mansion Inglés website. And you'll also find some paid ebooks and audios there that you can use for self-study. Go to the online store, store.mansioningles.net for the paid option, or go to mansioningles.com for the free material.
As always, we'd like to say thank you to all our supporters on the Patreon scheme. And what they do is they donate money to us. It can be as little as $1.50 per month. That's the minimum. And as a thank you to those people who do that, they get instant access to the audio transcriptions of this podcast, the words of the audio written down. If you're interested in sponsoring us, you could follow the link in the show notes. It's patreon.com/inglespodcast.
Unfortunately, we don't have time here to thank everyone who is supporting us on Patreon, but we want to say hello, welcome, and thank you to our latest Patreon supporters who have joined us this month. And they are Maria Vera, Enrique Gonzalvo, Sebastian Hernandez Giner, Alberto Toledano, Josune Arijotes Tolosa, Javier Gonzalez, and special thanks to 3 people who are sponsoring us and supporting us for more than the $1.50 minimum. And they are LIMP, Limp, thank you Limp, Sara, and Macarena Salazar Ortiz. Thank you to you and to everybody who is giving us support so that we can continue with this podcast.
Craig, what have we got in next week's episode?
The constant changing horizon of AI, artificial intelligence. We have spoken about that before, but as things change on an hourly basis, pretty much in AI, we have some recommended AI tools that could help you with your English. So join us next week and find out what the latest is in AI learning for languages. If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends so that more people can listen. And until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.